And we are now joined on the line by Ballyfin Senior Coach, Portlaoise Ladies Senior Manager, and DCU Senior Ladies Coach, Stephen Duff. Welcome to the show.
Hi lads, how are you?
Thanks for joining us, Stephen. You're a busy man.
Yeah, this time of year it's busy, all right. Don't get much time to myself, but it's great to have sport back, isn't it?
Yeah, give us a breakdown of a week then for the listeners.
A week for me at the moment is Mondays off, Tuesdays train Portlaoise ladies, Wednesdays catch up on one-to-ones, Thursday train Portlaoise ladies, Fridays train Ballyfin men, Saturdays is a down day, and then Sundays is usually training or a game, depending who's up. So that's the way it's working at the minute. It gets difficult when there's two championship games at once. You seem to be bouncing between two grounds, but it's actually it's enjoyable. It's stressful on the day, but you look back and it's enjoyable, especially when you get two wins. So it's going well.
Any fixture clashes so far?
Yeah, so we had last round of the ladies group stages and second round of the men's senior football championship on at the same day. One at 2 o'clock and one at 3 o'clock. So what it involved was going to the men's game, getting them warmed up, getting the performance goals and everything set, and then running straight to the ladies' game. I didn't even see 1 minute of the men's game. So that's the clashes that it has been at the minute. So it's tough. It's frustrating, but it's, for the first half an hour, I had one of my selectors with an earpiece in the ear listening to the men's game and keeping me up to date in the score. So that's the best way we can make it work.
Geez, you're having your own Gillette Soccer Saturday kind of thing, just teams.
Yeah.
Coaching.
Or Cammy following me around.
Well, listen, we wanted to bring you on to speak a little bit about club and county split because you have experience, obviously, coaching and managing club teams. Just to speak a little bit about how good this last few weeks and a couple of months has been for the club scene, because you know it's allowed clubs to be centre stage. A lot of streaming services going on, games on RT, club games on RT that would normally be Air Sport, GG Caher. Speak a little bit about that and how good that's been for the GA.
Well, yeah, like I couldn't agree more with you, Dan. Like from a spectator's and neutral's point of view, it's been great. From a club player's point of view, it's been great. They've been getting the full run at the summer. They're getting the full run at the championship. They're getting the full run with their full squad. No distractions, and we're seeing what the clubs can really produce from a performance side of things. From spectators, we're getting the very best of streaming. We're getting to see every game that's out there. Unfortunately, we can't all be there on site, but I think the streaming revelation done by county boards has been huge. I think there's a massive opportunity there for the GAA if they were to exploit that a little bit further. But also from a coaching point of view, I think it may open the eyes of a lot of coaches going forward as to what's really needed in order to perform at a championship level. Like this thing of starting back in November, 3 months prior to an inter-county league kicking off, or starting back in the muddy first week of January for a March club league kicking off. I think them days may be gone or numbered. I don't think coaches need that time to prepare anymore. Like this time, we got 2 weeks, 3 weeks before prepare for a championship without any league, without any kind of match fitness. And I personally don't think there's any lacking performance in this year's championship, despite the preparation times that are there. So I think from the three areas, I think it's been a massive positive. There obviously has been the negatives and the pieces that we all know about as regards fans being there and the stop-start nature. But on all, I think it's been a massive eye-opener for the GA and a massive eye-opener for everybody else that's watching.
So just before I get you in again, Stephen, so Sean, your kind of thoughts on that as well. And we had our own experience with our own club and streaming it, and a lot of people and alumni of the club being able to watch the games from even America, places like that. What were your thoughts on the streaming service as well?
Yeah, well, overall, but I think that the GA have probably been 3 or 4 years behind everyone else on this, you know. And if you think about how many other sports that their premier, you know, competitions, there's probably about 40% of games, probably less that are coveraged on TV or already even video. So, you know, I can't see a time now where there's an inter-county game and it's not being live streamed or it's not being accessed for people watching online, or maybe people living abroad. You know, GA Go does a great service, but it only does those that are being broadcasted. So I just think it's been a kind of a wonderful time for the GA in that respect to kind of catch up with it all and kind of showcase everything, because as a club player as well, you know, with the lack of spectators being able to be there, and maybe people that for other reasons just can't get to the games, to have yourself videoed and even in other sports to know what you're doing, and sometimes you can spot something, maybe a mistake you're making, or someone can point it out. I think it's been invaluable in that sense as well.
Yeah, just on that point, Stephen, in terms of the club, like it's just given the GAA a decision to make in terms of going forward here now. Like the demand is there for streaming services, where a lot of people even in the GAA might not have thought. Like a couple of journalists, I remember writing, a couple of big journalists writing at the time saying county football is the be all and end all in terms of, and I reading those articles, I kind of half see the point. I was maybe thinking that it might not be the demand for these club games. Like, do people really care what's going on in Mayo GAA club scene when in fact they do?
Yeah, like I think it's seen now that they do, because we know ourselves that people are talking about the club scenes. It's like, did you see the Mayo county final at the weekend? Did anybody see the Tipperary hurling county final at the weekend, which went to extra time, which was a massive spectacle? Did anyone see the Donegal Championship the whole way through this year, with Dungannon going to extra time 4 times, and surely what was it, 2 penalty shootouts? Like, this kind of drama we would be missing, and I think it's a massive ship that the GAA are missing. And as Sean mentioned, the GAA Go kind of platform is being underused, in my opinion. Like, if we were to look at the streaming services at a county board level, it'd be hard for me to go and look for a senior match that may be in Leitrim. But if the GAA were to sign up all county boards, that the games were to be recorded at a local level, but they were to be fed into the GAA Go, which is paid for on a Netflix kind of subscription basis, that we can go and tap into Leitrim games, senior games, and I can see Carrick and Shannon against Mohill, whoever that may be, that availability was there, and that everybody had a similar opinion, and that the professional services were being pushed down to county level. So rather than just having whoever is local doing it, that funding is dripping down. And I think that RTE, GAA, Sky need to look at the broadcast deal going forward, because I think this COVID situation has opened up a lot of people's eyes to the demand that's there for the club game. Now, also on that, you could facilitate the inter-county game, and obviously RTE and Sky and Virgin and everybody else will want their share of inter-county games, but the ones that they aren't showing, and the ones, and TG Cahir have done a great job on it as well, but the ones that they aren't showing should be available to watch, because the everyday volunteer on the ground does want to see their club playing, no matter where they are in the country or the world. So yeah, definitely agree with you guys on that point.
Well, there's a huge revenue chance for the GA, because you don't know how long it's going to be until 82,000 people come back into Crow Park again. And it's something that the GA just have never tapped into. Even if you look at the broadcast deal with Sky and RT, it's so basic, and it's so, for an organisation that prides itself on being probably Ireland's premier sport, the broadcasting and all that goes around it is just so below par. So in that sense, and even something that I found, even if you look at Noel McGrath's point on the weekend, that's gone viral on Twitter. It's got, I don't know how many different likes, and it's that little clip, because of the live stream, that enables people all around the world to see it, and maybe even go, do you know what, if that went to a replay, I'll watch the replay because of that, or that was a really good game, can I watch the highlights somewhere? So there's a huge chance, even if you talk about the Netflix style subscription of maybe paying, 15 quid a month, times that by, say for example 30 or 40,000 subscriptions, there's a huge chance that you bring in ad revenue, and it's a huge opportunity for the GA. And I hope this year of all years, for the inter-county season, we get the opportunity to watch a Longford or a Kildare in some sort of Leinster game or whatever it is, that we have a chance of watching on a live stream, and hopefully now we can.
It also allows for Sky Sports style Soccer Saturday feature program, where there will be people on the ground watching these games and commentating these games, and we can go to them at half time. And if the GAA were quick thinking enough, or if one of the broadcasters thinking quick thinking enough, that the facility is there then to shoot to another game and bring the highlights or bring the scores or whatever it may be, and you have that Soccer Saturday piece, and you could bring it back to some analysts in studio or whatever it may be. But the opportunities are endless with it, because you've got how many games going on across the country on a Saturday and Sunday, and it's just not being tapped into at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that may be coming back from a match, Sunday Sport is a huge example of that, where they reporters all over the county covering games, and yet you go to Sunday game, and there's no one actually, there's no commentary, there's no video from that match, yet there was someone in Park Charlton watching the game. So
Yeah.
there's a huge chance, and this year of all years, definitely we've got to see some more movement towards it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So moving on to a little bit about the club county scene or split season and the success of that. Is there a danger, Stephen, that the success of it has been mainly because we've had the club championships first and then we've the county championships looking forward to, whereas if we go back to the other way, so the good news is it will be a split season more than likely, but the 90% likely it's going to be county season and then club season. Will that get lost at all in terms of the inter-county being the main event and then the club season being after? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we all have to accept that the inter-county game is going to be the main event. It is the cash cow of the GAA. It does bring in all the money. They aren't going to want to cut down too much on the amount of inter-county games, because at the end of the day, the association does need to survive. It does need to generate revenue. That revenue trickles down to each county and each club. So we have to accept that it is going to be the cash cow of the GAA, and it's going to get probably first footing. But that doesn't mean that the club needs to sacrifice a huge amount. If we're looking at the county coming first, it's how does that look? Does it look like as it normally does, as the National League's kind of format, and we stick to the same? Or is there an opportunity to put the provincial championships in first? I don't think the provincial councils are going to want to give up on the provincial championships. But if there was an opportunity to keep the provincial championships, put them in first, followed by your club season, I think it could work, because then you're looking at your, I don't want to point out, but your weaker counties who may lose out in the first round of the Leinster Championship, and then their clubs are straight back into preparing for a club championship or club league fixtures. It gives that opportunity. Those who go all the way in the inter-county provincial championships may be at a little bit of a disadvantage, but if we give them a 2-week lead in for preparation to a club league, which at the end of the day, if we're speaking frankly, a lot of players wouldn't do at the start of the year anyway at the club level, and they kind of just show up for the first week and hope that it's good enough. It should be ample time to prepare for a club league. I think there's an argument there as well that people are forgetting, what happens to the club player who doesn't play inter-county? Are they being forgotten about? What are they doing for the weeks that the county are going? Dublin do an issue. I'm not sure if it's in the lads as well, and maybe you can correct it, but definitely in the ladies side of things, where they run a cup competition, and that competition runs the whole way through the year, and they play that without their county players. So you continuously play that, and your county players are exempt from that game. So it just means that there's continuous games for the club player ongoing. I know it's every Wednesday, and then you have your club players back for your league games and your championship games, and maybe there's scope to run competitions like that to facilitate the pure club player and the solo club player. So there's plenty of options there.
Yeah, I know Dublin has run cup competitions, but in the main, they would predominantly run the league games. 90% of them, or a good chunk of them, I don't know if you could put a figure on it, will be without the county players. And then for championship, they'd make sure they're back. I suppose each county is different. That's kind of where it might get a little bit messy in terms of A, they're getting knocked out at different times, and then B, they have different lengths of championships. I want to talk a little bit about the CPA and the couple of proposals they put out. What were your thoughts on there? Because the frustration is that the CPA, the Clubs Players Association, were at the table here in the GAA fixture or task committee, and for whatever reason, there's been a falling out, and they've left, and they've put up their two proposals. So the two proposals are online there if you want to Google them, and we've linked it in the episode description there. But the frustrating thing is they aren't being considered at the moment. I think the GAA are meeting today actually to consider 4 proposals, and none of them are the CPA, which is very frustrating, obviously.
Like the CPA, when they started, everybody jumped on board and said this is exactly what the club player needs. And the CPA struggled to get a footing in the GAA, and they were struggled to be accepted. They really fought a hard battle. And then this fixtures committee was set up, fixtures task force, or whatever the title on it is, and they were included. And everybody was celebrating that fact that the CPA were at last getting a voice. And whatever went on in the meetings and went on in that task force, the CPA felt that they weren't being acknowledged and respected the way they were. Now, they then dropped off that fixtures task force and now are presenting their own ideas, which will not be listened to because they've had their opportunity, and that's where the frustration lies. For me, it's kind of like, guys, you had your opportunity, you should have made it work. Don't be trying to just force your agenda in order for the CPA to be seen as the ones who changed the piece. It's a little bit frustrating because they're initial kind of vision was good, but now it's starting to turn like a little bit childish, saying make sure it's us that are at the front and center of this. I'm not sure what your views on it, Sean, are, but like for me, it's getting to that point where it's frustration with the CPA.
Yeah, I think it's just pure frustration with it all in general. The fact that, people have been talking about this issue, for a long time, but even in the last 3 or 4 years since the establishment of the CPA and the kind of the break from sort of association players being a part of the GPA and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just getting to this stage where so many players are going to lose a huge part of their career and playing career and they're not playing their football at the peak of the summer and at the height of good football. You don't want to see All Ireland football finals, men's and women's playing in December. Look, it has to happen this year because of COVID, but you want to be seeing these games in September or August when the weather is good, when people can get out to games and they kind of base their summers around them. So I'm very frustrated with everything that's happened, really, with the lack of sort of communication or the lack of action. You talk about all these fixture committees that have been set up, all the different people that have been in it, but yet we still haven't seen any fruitful action. I know there was supposed to be the break in the two-tier football this year, potentially didn't happen because of COVID, but it's 2020 now. It could be 2021 before it started. It could be 2022, and all of a sudden you think of a player like in the peak of their career, someone like a Kieran Kilkenny, 29, whatever he is, and he loses 2 or 3 more years, and we're still talking about this, and that's the problem I see with it personally. I just think something has to be done, and if people keep talking about it long enough, it won't happen. And that's my problem with it. Whether I have a huge issue with the CPA or the GPA or whatever it is, not particularly. I just like to see some action on it and some real leadership from someone to make it their brainchild. And the problem is, I've seen a lot of different formats for, and the CPA announced a few. I actually thought the best format I've probably seen was Kieran Donaghy on Off the Ball, where he went through sort of the breakdown of it and having the 2-tier structure, but you're having the best seven or 8 teams playing each other regularly. I think something like that's going to work. Then how to fill in the club season to it, but I just want to see some leadership on it, and whether it's the right decision now or the wrong decision, just go and do something where the club players and the inter-county players are both in the same, treated the same equally, especially because it's a farce now, really. It's just seems like a never-ending problem.
Do you guys see this as the end of the focus on the inter-county scene, or is this going to continue the same and that we will just be the classic GAA, let's go along with what's happened the year before, or is this a turning point now that COVID has forced a turning point on us?
I think COVID's probably forced a turning point on to find balance. And balance is the key here, because you can't have an inter-county final take a huge amount of preference over to a club final. But if you work this out at the start of the year and have it planned, they can both have their day in the sun, and they can both have 10 or 12,000 or whatever it is at a club final and 82 at an All Ireland final. But there's no one's going to go to watch a club semi-final in August the week before an inter-county final, because everyone's focused on the inter-county final, and that's the problem with it. And if you run the inter-county off, maybe you finish it on the July bank holiday, or you find some sort of premier day for it, and then the club final. You'd imagine going in to watch a Dublin senior football or hurling final, or whatever it is, in Parnell Park on a Saturday night in September, and the floodlights are on, and there's 16 or 17,000 at it. It'd be an unbelievable atmosphere. But if we continue this way, where they're just kind of both played off sporadically, and there's no real guide to it, then then we're just what we even doing, really. We're just kind of moving backwards in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing we really want to focus on now is the solutions. Just on your point there, Stephen, I do think that it is a turning point, because I think that those that were kind of dismissing the club games, like you mentioned at the top of the show, I think they're now seeing the amount of action and it seems to be every night there's a club game. Like, I don't know how that happens, considering they're only happening in the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, I go on Twitter on Wednesday, oh geez, I didn't even know that was on. So so let's move on to solutions here. So we discussed a lot of the problems, and I do hear a lot of these shows, and they do focus a lot on the problems. So let's look at solutions. We've linked, as I mentioned, the CPA solutions into this description. They're very kind of complicated in terms of going through them. So they're going to split up. They're going to run off the provisional structures first. With they're going to have a Leinster Group 1, Leinster Group 2, Ulster Group 1, Ulster Group 2, and they're going to throw in Longford into the Ulster mix. So they'll all have 5 teams and then 2 6 teams of Munster and Connacht. What's your take just on that? The couple of options there, because I could run through both of them.
They make sense. There's nothing that's going to bowl you over there. There was also mention of them moving counties into different regions, into different provinces. Like, for example, Leitrim moving into Ulster. I don't think that's a runner, for example. But I think, like, as regards their formats, yeah, they're fine. They could work. I don't know if they're going to excite the people. I don't think they're going to give people an appetite for change. Where I see this going is, like, we all know the O'Byrne Cups and the likes of them. They're gone. They're dust. There's no appetite for them. There's no point. There's no point to them. There's no appetite to them, bar from the provincial councils. They're a pre-season tournament. They could be done with practice games. They don't have to take up points in the calendar. Practice games can be run any night of the week. If we allow counties to have 3 practice games any night of the week instead of training in January, February, March, that kind of time, go ahead, or whenever it is. I don't think there's a need for any of them preseason competitions. They're a waste of time.
They're gone.
In my mind, they're gone.
Problem 1 solved. Brilliant.
We're going to change the world here, lads.
Yeah. So now let's now try and get rid of the provisional championships based on the councils. You want to come in there, Sean?
Yeah. Well, I'd be of the opinion the provincial championships have a lot of weight still. Maybe not in the current format, but I'd be kind of interested in maybe, running them off as your league almost, as your first bank of games. Does you agree with that, Steve?
Totally agree. Like, I see February and March, that kind of time, maybe a little bit of April. Let that period be your provincial championship. Okay, let it kick off your year. And there is a huge amount of weight to them. They make money for the provincial councils, but also, like, there is a tradition to having your provincial championship, and there's no harm. Obviously, there's the issue in Leinster football. There's the issue of now Munster hurling is one of the most competitive, but they're for another conversation. But February, March, let's get our provincial championships run off, and then hand it over to the clubs. For me, I think before we get to February, March, let's make sure the third level have January and the start of February. Let's get like the third level competitions. Me having experience this year of that, I think there's massive value to that third level piece. I think that sometimes can be forgotten about. I think the value of them has been lost to the people, and I think that needs to be brought back to the attention. Like, just the talent that's on show in these competitions is just it's next to none. For me, and I think they're really exciting championships. They're very open, and I think they need to be brought back into focus. So I think they need to be given its own individual window. And I personally think that it can be run off in 4 or 5 weeks. The O'Connor Cup, the Sigerson Cup, the Fitzgibbon Cup, etc., etc.
That was the third level football and camogie, and it was probably ahead of the trend in terms of they were live streaming a huge amount of games. I remember UCC played in DCU, and Mark Coleman, I think, put over a sideline cut to win the game in the last couple of seconds. And I remember that clip kind of went viral. I'd 100% agree. I played a little bit of third level football, but I've been around sort of the kind of the training and all. It's at such a high level. It's an incredible standard of football, and I'd love to see it get more media coverage. It's kind of forgotten about, like you say. So if you can run that up in a January, February, that's where you play your cup competitions, and then sort of into late February, you'd like to see the provincial sort of structure, like we said. But even on that provincial structure, you think about whatever way to do it, whether to do it straight knockout or groups. Imagine if you're allowed or you're a Longford. Imagine being drawn in a group with Dublin. It'd be a huge chance for them to just, when they know they can afford to lose the game, when they know they can get a huge crowd, a big revenue from it, whatever it is, it'll be a huge opportunity for them, rather than having to play Dublin in a knockout, Leinster first round, whatever it is, and then going straight into the back. Yeah, into the back door. So can you imagine getting, Longford playing Dublin on a Saturday night or Sunday afternoon, knowing that it's a real chance to just have a cut at them, and it doesn't matter whether they lose. It's not knockout, and it's just an opportunity for them to improve.
So just before you come in on the provisionals, Stephen, so we're going to go ahead with putting the college in January, or are we going to leave it where they run the leagues off in November, December as well, and then championship in January?
No, I think January. Let's get the third level in January. O'Connor Cup, Fitzgibbon Cup, Sigerson Cup, Ashburn Cup. Let's get them all in January. Let's give them a clean run at it. And if they finish up running into the first week of February, so be it. But I think 5 weeks should be able to do it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's January, and then moving on. So you would look at the provisionals potentially. Do you want to maybe just share your screen of what you kind of have as an overview of the calendar? So we're thinking maybe having the provisionals run off in February, March. Does that mean we're scrapping the league? Are we moving the league? Or talk us through it here. You have it.
Yeah, like for me, it's just notes here, guys. So excuse the mess. But for me, I've got my third level here. I've got my in January, February, March provincial championships, and as Sean says, they could be run off in a group format. They could be running straight knockout. But then after that, we hand back to the clubs. Okay. Now the question that will arise, and which will always arise, is how much access does the county manager get to his club player then? So are the county managers going to look for November, December to have their county players back? And then we're looking at burnout when we get to third level, and then they have their 3 months preparation coming into their February, March. I think that day is gone. It has to be gone. I think we're looking at a 12-month calendar here that county managers, the training cannot start prior to the 1st of January. 1st of January. Enforceable? I think with sanctions it is. Whether the GAA want to go down that road. County teams aren't training now. I know there's anecdotal evidence that county teams, they are, but in the weeks gone by that they weren't training. But for the most part, you'd have to look at that they haven't been training. I know Laois weren't training, and I've good sources to say that they haven't been training. There was rumours that Dublin and Donegal were training, but if there's sanctions there and if there's sanctions available, county teams will abide by it. We have to remember that they're answering to two leaders. They're answering to their club manager and their county manager. So, they're going to want to help the guys at home in their club. They're going to want to help that as a priority. Most players do, but they do want to have the success of the intercounty as well. So we need to give them that help out and take away the pressure and sanctions from the GAA. I would see as no training prior to the 1st of January. Your third level players are excluded from training during January. They have to focus on their college training. We forget, I know for DCU, from our O'Connor Cup side of things, we have a bit of a policy where we try and get our players to train with the college during the week, Monday to Thursday, Friday to Sunday, you're at home. Because what intercounty managers need to remember is while they're in college, they're getting a high level of training. They're training with other intercounty players, they're getting other experiences, and they're bringing that home. By dragging them home to training, you're increasing their workload, you're putting them at risk. They're driving home tired at all hours of the evening, trying to get back for college the next morning. Some of them not getting back to 1 or 2 in the morning. I know of experiences where people have been driving from Dublin to Donegal for an intercounty training on a Tuesday night and trying to be back for lectures at 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So I think that needs to stop. And I think the GAA need to take some leadership on that and just say, look, there's going to be sanctions for anyone who trains before the 1st of January. And if you're a third level footballer or hurler, that you are focusing on your third level at that point. And just that education piece for the intercounty managers.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I'd say, looking at the plan, Stephen, are we better off not? So for those that aren't on YouTube here, so January, your third level, like we mentioned, February, March, provincial championships, and we're going to go club league fixtures in April and May. Is there no, Sean, you want to come here just before Stephen comes in, but is there no intercounty action taken at that time? Or?
Yeah, see, that's where I think it's probably starts to get messy. Because the intercounty managers might say, for example, if you're a Carlow and you get to a Leinster final or football final or whatever it is, you've got that momentum, and then it kind of gets stifled with this April club league. I'd be kind of the opinion to try and shorten the intercounty season as much as possible by not having a break and not having a huge break. And for those club league fixtures, I don't mind seeing intercounty lads playing them if their managers will allow it or whatever way they have it. But even just for say for that period there where there's 5 or 6 league fixtures, just let the club players play. And if the intercounty lads are training, they are. But I don't know. I think that's where the issues have come, like this April month for the clubs or whatever it is. I think a lot of people, once they know that the club championship, which is huge, which is probably the priority in every county really, and in every code, once they know the club championship is being prioritised and it's still being looked after and it's going to have its day in the sun, I don't know if they'll mind that not having them there for 5 or 6 league games.
Before you come in,
Yeah.
Stephen, I guess you're kind of thinking of the club player here in terms of if it is just the inter-county season, there'll be no games for the club player. So I guess maybe having those club league fixtures going on while there's provincial championships or national league taking place.
Like, my thinking on it, guys, was there's been like the term that's been used constantly is split season. So we're splitting the season that the club players
It's a
are
buzzword
getting.
now, isn't it? It's the title of the episode, for example.
Yeah. Whereas it could probably be a hybrid season, and we try and mix the two of them in. I totally agree with you, Sean. If we're going down the split season line, we need to kind of differentiate what's club and what's county, and where does the inter-county player fall in this. If it's split season, we're going to have to give them both equal footing on this. If it's kind of the hybrid season, I totally agree with you. Let the league run off, or a cup competition be run off without your county players. If they're available, and run the club league as it has been running, going that way. I don't see any issue with that. It will be messy. It's going to be messy. This is one of the pieces now that's going to cause a lot of angst amongst clubs. But I don't see a clear resolution to it. Sean, your suggestion, I think, would make a lot of sense. For me, again, and this is probably more of a championship restructure thing, is if we're looking at June, July, and August, as I have in my plan here, of being inter-county, run off your peak competition, what is your peak competition? Is your peak competition your standard championship like we have now, 2-tier as it's coming in? For me, I think our most exciting competition to date has been the national leagues. Now, there's going to be a lot of anger amongst the smaller counties who may not get a chance at winning the Sam Maguire, which is an argument I've heard over and over again. But for me, I think the teams playing at their own level, like in the Super 8s of a Tyrone bringing Dublin up on a Oma on Saturday evening, that type of thing will be massive in the summer evenings. I, as a Laois person, would love in Division 2 to be playing on Saturday evenings, full crowds, going down to Semple Stadium, going up to Crossmaglen, going everywhere. And I think that could be a real opportunity to keep the revenue coming through, games week in, week out, across all divisions. But, promotion and relegation as well, team of the year in each one. So all stars for Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, Division 4. And you're playing at your own level, and there's some real competition. And we're looking at relegation battles. We're looking at promotion battles. We're looking at whatever may else be going on. It may leave some dead rubbers at the end, but I just think that there's some real opportunity there to go at. Another option for me then is the Champions League style format, based off your league position or based off your grading and seeding. And then it falls into a 2-tier, but I think that just spreads it out even longer. I know it's been suggested a lot, but it's just getting the game. If the weaker counties aren't going to play at their own level and aren't going to get continuous amount of games, they aren't going to improve. What's the point of, players aren't committing because they don't want to come up against a Tyrone or a Dublin? The fairy tale stuff is going, I think.
Yeah, notice you weren't saying this a couple of years ago when Laois were in Division 4, but we'll move on. So you're kind of between two, Stephen, in terms of a National League format or a Champions League format.
For me, they're the two that I would most appeal to me. I think the one that makes the most sense is the National League in the summer.
Sean, what are you kind of thinking for the championship structure itself? So we're just focused really at the moment on it. Realistically, be a 3-month window to run off, or 3 or 4 month window to run off a championship.
I'd be doing the sort of the Champions League style format, splitting it in two. You have 2 groups of 16. I think the numbers kind of work naturally. I'd be having it like that, 4 groups of 4. And while this is all going on, I, like you said there about the split season, I think this has to be a hybrid season, because there's nothing you'd rather do when you're watching the top level players, maybe a Dublin Kerry in the summer, or a Waterford Tipperary in the hurling. Do you just want to go out and play football yourself, or play hurling or camogie or whatever it is? So in that sense, it has to be a hybrid season. We can't have 4 or 5 months of the year where there's no club games. But in terms of the senior men's football structure, I'd be having a Champions League style, two pods. So the Sam Maguire Cup, maybe the Park Charlton Cup, or the Talton Cup, or the, I know a few people had said it should be like a Mick O'Dwyer Cup or something like that, where you've 16 teams of a relatively close standard. Yes, you might have a few mismatches. You might have, a Dublin coming up against, say, someone like a Laois, for example, or whatever it is, or
Sorry.
Yeah, in that sense, but that is kind of what it should be. And relegation, 2 teams go down, 2 teams come up into the Sam Maguire Cup, the 2 finalists, or whatever it is. And I think that is probably the best. I love the National League. I think they're the most competitive. But whether I think people might sort of lose interest of 4 competitions running simultaneously, I think could be an issue. Now, I think that the Champions League is probably the best.
Well, my fear is we have something. The one thing good about intercounty moments, the National League. So if we go with this Champions League format and go for the provincial championships instead of the league, and maybe lose the league, have we just lost the best competition then? But then on the other hand, GAA people won't buy into this National League being the be all and end all. I'm just thinking of the Premier League. I was only thinking watching the games over the weekend how everyone's so into it after only game week 2 or 3. In GAA, I don't think that we will be able to transfer because it's just championship is championship. It's a bit like it's the opposite way around to football or to soccer and Premier League. So that's the fear, really, Stephen. There's a reason this hasn't been solved. I guess now it's just where do we go? People are always going to be in different camps, and then a lot of people in the middle. You want to come, Sean, before Stephen?
Yeah, the thing about the Champions League style format, and it's similar to the World Cup style format. I think it's quite an easy concept to gain. I think most county championships use this kind of structure now. And I think for the average GA person, I think they'll understand it a lot more than a lot what people think. And I think it's just something that if it works, I think it would be, tenfold of what we currently are in terms of competitive games, in terms of the best 16 teams playing against each other, and there's still promotion and relegation. There's still a chance to play in Croke Park. And if you're a Longford or whoever you are in Division 3 or Division 4, you still have a chance to play in Croke Park. You still have a chance to play in front of 60, 70,000, whatever it may be, and be an All-Ireland winner, and still be winning an All-Ireland.
Well, yeah, and the other option here, guys, is, I'm sorry, actually, first of all, the other issue is, and where we're going to get, because if we're going to save the world here, where we're going to get pushback from is the counties that we put into Division 2. Their argument is they all want to play for Sam Maguire. In my opinion, I don't think everyone can play for Sam Maguire because I think it's a waste of time. The fairy tale stuff is gone. It works in club, junior, intermediate, and senior. I don't see why that can't work in the inter-county. But that's where we're going to get the pushback from. For me and Sean, for your Champions League style format, would there be an option? Is it 8 groups of 4? We could go 8 groups of 4 in the football championship, where the top 2 qualify for the Sam Maguire and the bottom 2 qualify for the Towson Cup. That means everybody's got an opportunity to play for this Sam Maguire. The Sam Maguire would get their All-Ireland, or sort of get their All-Stars. They would get it on the first Sunday of September, or whenever that may be, followed by the bottom 2 also having their final on the exact same day or the day before, making it a bit of a festival of football weekend. They get their All-Stars, and the All-Stars travel to Hong Kong or wherever, and the 2 teams play off against each other. And this equal opportunities are given to both sides. And it gives us that kind of Saturday, Sunday festival football in Dublin. Imagine Drumcondra, the scenes, if you had 4 teams converging on Drumcondra for a weekend, it'd be huge. But I just think the argument there that we keep getting and keep hearing is that, we're not getting the opportunity to play for Sam Maguire. Whereas if we give them the opportunity and then we finish off, so the top 2 will go Sam Maguire, bottom 2 Towson Cup, and they go into quarterfinals each.
Yeah, just on that point. So firstly, my thing would be have the provincial championships, have the National League as they are, and using the National League to determine 2, possibly 3 championships tiers, like you mentioned, senior, intermediate, and junior. My fear with that, Stephen, is, and I understand the reason you're saying that is mainly to try and please the pushback from the counties, but you might get a couple of clever counties that are in a group of 4 going, well, we've no chance of winning the All-Ireland here, so we don't want to win this last game, so we have a chance of going to the B Championship and this kind of nonsense, where I think that's kind of put to bed if you're using the National League scenes. I was only thinking that, looking at, that's one of the CPA structure is that kind of everyone in the same 32 teams in the top 2, bottom 2, but I do think that could potentially be a problem down the line.
Yeah, no, it's not something that I had considered. But yeah, it's something that I think I know in the ladies' game there is the senior, intermediate, and junior, and all the finals are played. That works very well, doesn't it? It works great. I think it's huge. I was involved with Laois last year, and we were in intermediate, and to get to the intermediate All-Ireland final was our goal. And it would have been we've seen Tipperary win it, we've seen Meath get to the final 3 times. The same emotions are there for the players. And I think teams know where they stand. If teams in the middle tier had something to play for, would it encourage more players to get involved in the inter-county scene? I think yes. Would it bring on the performance levels of each county? I think yes. I think that junior, senior, intermediate works very, very well. like I know this, the attention is on the 8 senior teams or however number in it. Your Dublins, your Galways, your Monaghans, your Corks, and Tipperaries now who are cementing their place in there. So trying to cement their place in intermediate, and I know Down actually were performing very well in the last couple of years after their promotions. Tipperary are have been a bit of a yo-yo team from intermediate and senior, and now they're looking at cementing their places. I just think it works really well. I don't think there's any arguments to it. Everyone gets their day out in Croke Park. That probably couldn't work in the Maidel game because 82,000 sells out Croke Park for one match. But there's no reason why you couldn't do the Festival of Football Friday evening, Saturday evening, Sunday senior finals. So
yeah, no, I think that's probably the best way to do the kind of junior, intermediate, senior. So kind of final and wrap this up. Guys, I think what we're kind of leaning towards is the provincial championships, potentially having the National League there as well. It's just a case of pushing it in. So just on last thing and moving on to the club here specifically, I guess the danger we have is, I know it's been spoken on a lot of other shows before in terms of the different county boards. Every county board's run differently. Every county board's got different style of championships. For example, Dublin has 32 senior clubs. A lot of other counties have 32 senior clubs. A lot of counties have 16 senior clubs. Every county is different in terms of how long it takes them to run off their championships. How much time should we give clubs, or how much time should they need? So when's the ideal All-Ireland final for you, Stephen? And then I'll bring you, Sean, in on this. When's the ideal? Is it going back to September days? I guess that's off the table. Is it August? Is it even the end of July? When gives enough clubs or enough county boards a chance to run off all their championships?
For me, I think like if we could give the clubs definitely August, September to run off their own club championships, middle of August. But we have until the second week of December to run off the club championships as regards nationally and provincially as well. I think that window needs to be opened as well, because I think we're getting to a point here, even in present day, where we're getting to county finals and we're seeing the likes of Coola and Ballyhale coming out in Kilkenny, and we're seeing like Ballygunner, and now we're looking at Kildangan and all these kind of teams. And I personally would love to see a provincial championship, so they need to be earmarked in at the end. So if we're looking at July All-Ireland finals, end of July All-Ireland finals, for September, October clubs championships, into November, December for provincial and All-Ireland club championships, I think it works, but I think we need to tidy up how the intercounty is run, how county boards are actually officiating their own club championships, because there's massive differences across the country. County board position is not something that I'd ever want. I think the county boards do their best, they're volunteers, but I think it needs to be standardised and centralised from Croke Park, that if you have, every county should have 12 senior teams, every county should have whatever it may be, and we try standardise it a bit. I know that's difficult because there's different levels in each one, but we try and standardise it a bit, because it's just, like, I know myself, we have a county final this weekend. Please God, if we win it, we're supposed to be out the following Saturday, and then the following Saturday, and then the following Saturday. I know this year's a little bit different, but Carlow have been finished up for 3 or 4 weeks before their championship gets going. And it's just massive differences across the board, whereas it was Croke Park sat down with somebody responsible for the club game and their fixtures and fed down to the county boards. I personally think there's another conversation that they should be appointing a CEO or an MD into the Croke Park, should be appointing one of these into each county board, and being run professionally. But that's another conversation. But that we need to standardise it and kind of feed down to the county boards. This is what you're to do. You're to have it run off by this date, and you're to be in your provincial competitions by this date. You're to give them your full support, that type of thing. But yeah, to answer your question, bring it back. I think July All-Ireland finals, 2 months then to run off your club championship, and then you're into provincial and All-Ireland championships.
Final point on this, Sean. I guess what you said, Stephen, I couldn't agree more, and I actually think it's far so good, really, that club championships, you can win a club championship. Obviously, hasn't happened this year because there's no provincial. But sorry, you have provincial and ladies, I guess. Is that the reason?
Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, we do. Yeah.
Here's another example of you win a club championship. You worked all year to win a club championship, and you're out the following. Sometimes it's like you're playing on a Sunday and you're out the following Saturday, so you can't even have the chance to celebrate it. Sean, you want to come in there?
Yeah, the ideal time, I think, for if we are doing this festival of football, would be the August bank holiday weekend. It's probably the biggest weekend in terms of tourism, in terms of people going down the country, and it's just such a weekend synonymous with all that. So I think if you do run that festival of football, whatever way you do it, if you do it sort of the My Way, where you have 2 separate tournaments. You can do Saturday night, Sunday night, or Friday, whatever it is. And then that sort of opens it up. So that's on the start of August. Say for example, there's a replay in one of them, the 10th of August. So by the 15th of August, clubs should be back training. In terms of they're back training with their county players rather. So then you've got the 22nd or whatever it is. Say for example, all that. That is when you start your club championship, and every club should be encouraged to run a group. So to run 3 games, or whatever it is, or play as many games as possible in the time without in terms of burnout and in terms of dead rubbers. And then, like you said there, I think the interprovincial club and the sort of All Ireland club finals, they should be the end of the year, and they should be the last sort of straw and the last day out in Crow Park or whatever it is. You kind of spoke about it earlier, in terms of, is the club season maybe getting on the back burner? I think if you've an unbelievable summer of football in intercounty that runs out in August, people are going to be dying to go back and actually, maybe that couldn't get to an All-Ireland final, go out and watch their club game again and watch good standard of football or whatever it is. And I think the club championship will actually, rather than being the first thing and sort of, it's not that it's the main event, but it's got its own window now, and it has its own chance to exceed as much as possible in all the different codes. And in terms of running off, maybe having a December All-Ireland club finals in terms of camogie and ladies football and men's football and hurling, I think that would just be the best couple of weekends of the year, even in terms of, imagine a December All-Ireland club final or whatever it is. It's just something that whatever structure they have, I think it's not going to be 100% to everyone's liking. But in terms of some of these is probably, the best that GA can do, or the GA can do. And hopefully whatever they do, hopefully they come out with as detailed an action plan as possible and detail of action as soon as possible, because, like we said earlier, it's just drifting. It's just continuously drifting.
Yeah, and like, Sean, just to back up your point there, I think at the moment it's trendy to be this extremist pro club person at the moment. I think it's really trendy at the minute. I think if we got a taste for the intercounty game again, I think that could change a little bit, and the trends and the social media would change, and the taste would change a little bit. I think there's still a massive appetite to see the best players from each county come against each other, to see the likes of Conor Callaghan, to see the likes of TJ Reid, all these type of players. We want to see these players, but it's just what we want to see is the club that is not forgotten about either, and that they get an equal opportunity, an equul footing to go out and show what they've got, and for them to perform and play with the players that they've grown up with, and the club get to have them for as often as they can. But that, I agree, if we can get to this festival of football piece in football anyway, I don't think the hurling needs as much change as the football, and that's probably why we focus on it. I think the hurling could nearly be left the way it is. It's such an exciting championship. But if from a football point of view, please God, Coppers is back open. If we can get to festival football and have a game on a Friday night into Coppers, Saturday night into football, and then
so now we know the real reasons for change.
But that's what it should be about. We should be trying to promote the games and have these big main events as much as possible.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, say in the next year with all this coronavirus stuff, but if we can just have those big events, like probably the best weekend last year and the years before of GA have been the 2 All-Ireland hurling semi-finals, because they mean the two of the best games, and they're on Saturday, Sunday. So you've just got, everyone goes hurling mad. Everyone talks about them. And that's what it has to be. That's what it has to be like. We want the GA or whatever it is to be the centerpiece of Irish sport for those 4 or 5 weeks in the heart of the summer, where there's quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. And that's what I think the GA need to go back to, rather than rely on this old traditionalist that some people want the third weekend in September, some people want, as long as it's just bunched in together in terms of semi-final, final, hurling 1 week, football the next. That's what people want.
And like we're talking about, like when we get to All-Ireland final stage the end of July, we're talking about only 2 teams being left, or if we get to our 3 tiers, we got 6 teams left, if we got 2 tiers, 4 tiers left. Like there's still a number of other counties that can go back to their club training at that point. We're just saying that everybody else gets the rest of the window. So like whenever everyone else finishes up, depending on the championship restructure that we get to, there's going to be a point where we get to semi-finals and finals where the majority of club players are back playing with their clubs, and they're going to get an ample window. And we're saying September, parts of July, parts of August, September, October, November, December. Hopefully, if you get that far, that you're with your club, and hopefully sometime before that as well. And then you're into your January, you've got your third level, and we're getting to watch these third level games, whether it be on the GAA Go platform like we've spoken about, and we're getting to log in and hit third level, and I get to see UCC and DCU and UCD against Mary I and whatever it may be, that we have access to all these games because it's all there, it's all out there for us. We just need to have access to it. And I think it's very close. But as you said, Sean, we just need to get away from this traditionalist point of view that, oh, sure, our league and then our championship and then our whatever it is and whatever it is. It just, let's open it up and let's see what ideas are out there, because there's some really good ideas out there.
Yeah, and interesting times, as we said, the Fixture Task Force are meeting today, sorry. So there should be more kind of coming out of that. But as the famous quote goes, can't give you the formula for success, but it can give you the formula for failure. Try to please everybody. So that'll definitely be something in ringing in the ears. But listen, Stephen, really appreciate you coming on. If there's something does happen today from that Fixture Task Force, we'll have to get you on again to talk about the new proposals. But listen, best of luck in the final this weekend, and pleasure talking to you, and thanks for coming on.
Cheers, lads. Best
Thanks,
of luck.
Stephen.
Bye. Bye.